It's a 60-minute drive for a 60-minute game. After all the miles we've traveled, we're almost there. After all the hours we've worked, one more can make us legends. After all.
Good evening, everybody. This is Greg Rector with TeamMBSmedia.com, and this is The Last Word. I'll be your host for this evening here, and Mr. Brock Vieira will be along shortly. So let's go over the earlier games today. We had some very interesting games all day today, and I just wanted to start off with the schools that weren't playing anybody today. Clemson, and they beat the Citadel 51-14. South Carolina pounded Wofford 56-12. Then, of course, we had Tennessee put a number on UTEP 56-0. And, of course, we also had the Georgia Bulldogs playing another nobody today when they played UMass. And so those were the earlier games today where nobody played anybody of any importance. Hi, Brock.
Hi, Greg. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. How are yourself?
I can't complain.
We had some very interesting games today.
Indeed. Upsets galore, to say the least.
In some ways, yes. We have a big upset coming, courtesy of the Oklahoma Sooners. They're up 24-3 on Alabama right now.
Yeah, it turns out the secret sauce to being the Crimson Tide is run the option. Who knew?
Who knew? And of course, I just saw somebody post in the chat room that this would never happen to Saban. Really? With this type of player that he's got right now, this is why Nick Saban left Alabama. Thank you very much. He left. Do you agree with me that Jalen Milroe needs to come back next year?
I agree 100%.
And
what I don't see him being a top 3 quarterback selected in the draft this year. I think that he definitely has potential to be a first overall pick in future years. But his glaring inaccuracies and sometimes his decisions reek of a bust at this point. And he is way too talented to be that. So I think he needs another year of QB development with DeBoer and Ryan Williams as his wide receiver. I think he'll be in a much better shape for the NFL after 2025.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And then a place that Nick Saban this morning called hell on earth, Jordan-Hare Stadium. The Auburn Tigers are beating the Texas A&M Aggies.
Yeah, another bizarre result. I mean, the bookies had this game at about -1.5 in favor of the Aggies, but you gotta think that a team that was once ranked number 1 in the SEC turned midway of the season wouldn't have such a collapse like A&M has had over these past few weeks, and now culminating in what looks to be a potential massive loss in Jordan-Hare that will take them out of the college football playoff contention. Basically, what we all believe next week or the final week of the season, which would be the Lone Star showdown between A&M and Texas, would essentially be a win-in game, is now just that for the Longhorns and no longer that for the Aggies.
Because this would be the Aggies' second conference loss, right?
I believe so, yes. And then compare that with the loss in Notre Dame to start the season. 3 losses, it's way too hard for a team with 3 losses to get in, especially with some of these other losses that we've had today with Ole Miss and such.
Yes, well, we were going to get to the Gators stunning Ole Miss, and there it is, folks. Jackson Dart, 24-41, 323 yards, 2 TDs, 2 interceptions. Montel Johnson Jr. was a superstar for the Gators today. Boy, Mississippi, they just did not stop Florida at all today, and that was the shocker to me in this game, Brock. The simple fact that the Ole Miss defense, which has been number one in the country at stopping the run all year long, they didn't stop it today. How do you explain this one?
It's typical Lane Kiffin. They just can't be consistent. Lane Kiffin is notorious for having big moments followed by little moments, and this is exactly what happened. When you look at the losses to teams like Florida and Kentucky, it all comes down to one thing: it's poor coaching. They don't have the model or the culture of being a true perennial winner, and that's what's been the Achilles heel of the Rebels for quite some time. And it doesn't just extend to Lane Kiffin. This has been something that's plagued the program for decades now. It's not up to a century at this point. For Ole Miss,
1963, before I was even born, Brock, was the last time Ole Miss played for the SEC championship.
Exactly. Right. So, when you have a culture that exists in Oxford, Mississippi in terms of donors, and then you have the result that you see on the field, there's got to be some discontent among the boosters. And then I think that everyone's kind of asking themselves right now, hey, we just gave Lane essentially a dream team in terms of players from the portal with NIL and everything, and you still can't get us to the final dance. It sounds like you're the problem. And I think that those conversations are going to get a lot more louder in 2025 if Lane does not secure a place in the CFP for Ole Miss next year.
Yeah, it's definitely an issue. Trey Harris, of course, did come back and had one nice touchdown for them, and they just didn't find him the rest of the day. That was a bit of a shock to me, is the way that Florida was able to shut down Trey Harris after that one very nice catch, but they pretty much shut him down.
Yeah, I mean, this result wasn't too much of a shock to me. I actually had Florida winning this one just because I felt that momentum was in favor of the Gators entering this game. Ole Miss did beat Georgia last week, and that was a huge win. But like I said, Ole Miss teams have a tendency to be too much caught up in the moment and then fall asleep in the next game. For Florida having won against LSU last week, having, of course, having rebounded after the Miami game, in which everyone was calling for Billy Napier's head, kind of going through that adversity together really gave me the confidence. And then when you pair that with the abilities of DJ Lagway, who I think is going to be one of the premier quarterbacks in college football in 2025, I mean, this is the results that you get. You have a full committed effort towards wins. And congratulations to the Florida Gators for a team that we had down and out and listed as, failures at coming into the season. Of a team that is going to be without their head coach entering this offseason, things of that nature. They completely rewritten their story, and now they're going bowling, something that nobody could have predicted.
No, indeed, because of course after week 3 they were already with the GoFundMe to get rid of them out of there and everything else. Billy Napier's done a hell of a good job, and basically what they said today on College Game Day, it happened. I mean, when he had his break with those players, he just took everybody aside and set them down. They had conversations, and he got his players to buy into what he wanted them to do, and they're doing very well.
Yeah, that's exactly what you have to do. And then you also got to think about it. For Billy Napier, this is his kind of swan song because he recalls everybody talking about how much it's going to cost Florida to get rid of him, how they don't like him, how he sucks, this and that. And now with FSU, a team that they're going to beat, no doubt about it, next week. Like, Billy Napier is on the verge of a 7-win season if they win the bowl, an 8-win season. That is remarkable. I tweeted out earlier that he won't win Coach of the Year, but he should be nominated because this has been one of the more premier coaching jobs I've seen in quite a while.
Yeah, exactly. So let's go to the other bigger game earlier today. Of course, the Indiana Hoosiers went to Columbus, the Horseshoe, and, well, wasn't quite the result I was looking for. But the Indiana Hoosiers offensive line certainly let down Curtis Rourke today, and that was the key difference to me. Curtis Rourke was 8 of 18 for 68 yards, and again sacked 5 times. Will Howard played a decent game. What did you make of the Buckeyes' big victory?
No, this is great for Ohio State. I mean, they cemented themselves as one of the best teams in the country. With this win, they left no doubt on the field. And should they not upset that, should they finally defeat Michigan and not fall victim to upset next week, they're going to have an 11-win season and they're going to have an automatic spot in the college football playoffs and also an opportunity to take revenge on their 1-point loss to Oregon and Eugene. Ryan Day, this is a big day for him because he's being criticized his entire career, but not being able to win big games in this nature. And against a team like Indiana, who came out early and was being very physical, and was able to drive down the field and even ended up scoring a touchdown. He just got to feel like, hey, maybe the tides are finally turning for my team. We can be this physical natured team that I've wanted for a long time, and perhaps this is the catalyst that's going to finally give us the success we desired in the postseason. So congratulations to him. For Indiana, they just got outplayed. There's no other way to put it. They looked good, sharp early, but then the mistakes kept adding up, especially towards the end of the first half and then into the second half. And then when you play a team like Ohio State that has as much talent as they do, you can't make mistakes and expect to win. This was chin check time for Indiana. This is the wake-up call time for them. This is real big boy competition. As much as I want the Hoosiers to make the playoffs, and they've been helped out a lot by a bunch of the results that have happened today, they got to realize they need to get it together if they want to make any type of move in this postseason. Fortunately for them, should they beat Purdue next week, and they should beat Purdue next week, I don't see a scenario in which they do not get in.
No, I tend to agree with you. It's just it was upsetting that they only managed 15 points, though.
Yes,
that really did annoy me.
You would expect a bit of higher offensive efficiency from the number one passing attack in the country. If I'm not mistaken, that was the numbers before they came into this game.
Yeah.
But I actually wrote an article about it for Indiana Hoosier State of Mind. And Indiana Hoosier, I forget what it's called, but I said that the key to this game is going to be Indiana's ability to handle Ohio State's wide receiving core. The secondary needs to show up or they're going to lose, and they didn't show up. And that directly contributed to Will Howard's big day and the big day from the Ohio State offense.
Absolutely. So we know that the school up north pounded Northwestern today, 50-6. Will Johnson is not going to be playing against Michigan either. His season is over.
Did they come out and say that already?
Yeah. His season is going to be over. I think Ryan Day does get his victory against Michigan next week. So that gorilla will be off of his back. So, let's just see here. We had another Big Ten war that ended up very close, 26-25, Penn State over Minnesota.
Yeah.
Boy, Minnesota, when they're at home late in the year, they just come out and play teams tough, and they don't care who it is.
No, they don't. I mean, Minnesota played a fantastic game. Max Brosnan was throwing dots up and down the field all day, and they had a very proficient rushing attack. But to me, this wasn't more so Penn State overcoming Minnesota's prowess. This was more Minnesota losing the game. Over to Penn State. This was a poor performance by Penn State, and it really casts into doubt, in my opinion, their legitimacy. I know everyone wants to criticize Indiana, but Penn State, I think, has the same value concerns. Just because they lost significantly less to Ohio State, that doesn't necessarily say that they're that much better than the Hoosiers. I mean, this is a Penn State team that has no passing offense at all. Drew Aller has looked very poor throughout parts of the year. Outside Tyler Warren, Kaytron Allen, and Nick Singleton, they don't have an offense at all. And when those players are not the quarterback, you have to call in some major questions. You also got to ask how long can they run this pseudo run game with Warren and then this pseudo pass game with Singleton and expect to find success in the playoffs. They're absolutely horrible on the defense. Minnesota ran up and down on them all day. Their ability to control a lot of scrimmage was very, very, very impressive. and should be very concerning for Penn State fans, especially their ability to keep Brosmer saying Abdul Carter could not get any traction at all. I think this was a major wake-up call for Penn State to remind them that there's a reason why they've fallen short of expectations in the James Franklin era.
Katron Allen didn't even have a single carry in the first half of the game. Not one carry.
Which is bizarre. And again, every single issue at Penn State always comes down to coaching. And every single time. And that's what's happening again. They got very, very, very lucky that they're playing a team that doesn't have as much talent as they do.
All right, here. So the SMU pounded UVA today, 33-7. Are they good enough to win the conference?
Yeah, I think so. Kevin Jennings is a really impressive quarterback. There's no other way to just say it. He's very impressive. I think SMU has a really good offense and they have a very underrated defense, and their propensity to be able to travel and win has been very impressive. Their only loss of the season is to BYU, who we have seen be one of the top teams in the country, and that was an early season loss, and this team has grown from it exponentially. I think that they're going to win the ACC, as they should, and I think that they can be really dangerous in the playoffs. I mean, you ask me right now, predictor for the ACC championship game, assuming it's SMU and Miami, I'm picking SMU. I think that they're much more efficient offensively, and they have a harder nosed defense. And for what I saw, even though Miami covered today, but from what I saw from the Hurricanes early against Wake Forest, it's cause for concern.
Well, SMU plays complementary football very, very well. And complementary football is the way to win a championship. Everybody always talks about this quarterback stuff, and it's all about the quarterback. No, it's not. Special teams and defense also matter. And SMU's defense has played very well. So let's go to the other quote unquote upset, although I said with Jeff last week, and I said with Bill last night on the college football forecast, the Kansas Jayhawks are a legitimate team. Whether people want to believe it or not, they've now beaten 3 ranked teams in a row. They are the first team in the FBS history to do this with a losing record. What did you make of the Colorado Buffaloes today?
Yeah, no, I agreed. I had Colorado on upset alert in this one, and that's exactly what happened. Jalen Daniels was absolutely fantastic. Not only was he great through the air, I mean, his ability on the ground, he was zigging and zagging and making defenders miss left and right. He looked the best today as he looked the entire season. Little update from Alabama, Oklahoma. Jalen Milroe stripped and intercepted, essentially. Oklahoma's going to win that one. They're up 24-3 at the 2-minute timeout. But going back to the game, yeah, Colorado played poor. It just showed the massive deficiencies in the Colorado team. As great of a season as they've had, they don't have a defense at all outside of Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter has made up for their glaring issues of no pass rush, no secondary, and no strong linebacking core, which is very impressive in itself. But for Kansas, yeah, they're a burgeoning team right now. They're finally getting it together. They finally look in sync. And, I would have put it past them to somehow reach bowl eligibility in the final week of the season. I mean, not only have they won against 3 ranked teams in the manner in which they won, they put in dominant performances. It just makes you wonder, had they been playing at their home stadium the entire year and not had to get used to this new travel schedule for their home games, could they have been better this year? Could they have made a push to the college football playoffs? Who knows? But finally, we're getting to see what the finished product of I believe his name is Jeff Grimes, of a Jeff Grimes offense looks like. And that's good. I mean, it's looking real good. He did it. He was good at Baylor for a while. It kind of fizzled out. It looks like
the Jayhawks stopped turning the ball over. And that was what was killing them early this year, was the turnovers. Once they stopped turning the ball over, and that defense is a solid group. They are a solid group. And again, when you can't run the football the way that the Buffaloes can't, I'm sorry, you're not going to win that many games in the long run, especially against good solid teams like Kansas. You're not going to win.
You're absolutely right.
So, prime time, enjoy your bowl game because the playoffs are pretty much out of your ballpark right now because if Arizona State, BYU, Colorado, and ISU all end up at 7-2 in the conference, ASU and ISU play in the Big 12 title game. If ASU, BYU, and Colorado tie, it's going to be ASU and BYU in the title game.
Yeah,
So,
but Kansas State plays Iowa State, I believe, at the end of the season. So a lot could happen. And Arizona is hosting Arizona State, what will be a very heated rivalry because Arizona blew out Arizona State last year in Tempe. So
yep.
It's gonna be a very interesting final week of the season.
Yeah, it will be. But again, and this goes to my anti-Travis Hunter for the Heisman Award. I'm sorry, because when Bryce Young was the big leader at Alabama, but Kenneth Walker III didn't win enough games at Michigan State, even though he played more to do more for his team to win. I'm sorry, Travis. You're not going to be in a championship game. You're not playing for the playoffs. There's a guy up in Boise State who will be, though, and his name's Ashton Genty. That should be your Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah, I'm not going to comment because obviously you've made your voices known, but Bryce Young deserved the Heisman over Kenneth Walker. I don't even think that should be a remotely a question, honestly. But yeah, was that even the? I don't even think that was the same year.
Yeah, it was.
Was it?
Yeah, Bryce Young 2 years ago won the Heisman Trophy, and Kenneth Walker III was second.
Were they even in the same draft class?
Yeah. Bryce Young went to Carolina, and Seattle took Kenneth Walker III. Yeah. Even though
they're not even the same draft class. Hold on.
Yes, they are.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
No, they're not. Kenneth Walker's 2022. Bryce Young's 2023.
No, he wasn't.
You know I'm right. I don't even think they're the same year. I mean, I know Young played a year after he won the Heisman, but still. All right, let's see. 2020. That's not important. Point thing is, I don't understand where this hate for Travis Hunter comes from. Yeah, I mean, Travis Hunter is one of the actually, he right now is the premier corner in the league. He's also a top 5 to top 10 wide receiver while college football. To be dominant at 2 positions is very impressive. And I mean, there's a lot of arguments you can make against Ashton Genty. I mean, I believe Ashton Genty. I mean, Ashton Genty gets my vote for the Heisman. Don't get me wrong, but I do it for a different amount of reasons. Genty's lack of competition could be a massive thing. And before everyone says Oregon, or this was an Oregon defense that was struggling against Idaho, so I really don't want to hear it. I mean, if you put a Marion Hampton in the Mountain West, I bet he would be putting up similar numbers to Genty, no problem. So I think that this whole notion that Genty is a far superior player to Hunter is absolutely ridiculous when they are 1A and 1B, and both men are 1A and both men are 1B. So I think this Heisman race is a lot closer. I think the disrespect shown toward Travis Hunter during this debate has been absolutely ridiculous. He is the best at one position. He's a top 5, top 10 at another position, and he plays both very well, very often. But people only want to focus on the stats and not look at the film and the stats. And what the film and the stats say is that both men are supreme players and deserve their flowers. Thank you.
They both deserve them. They do. I totally agree with that. I just don't think that Travis Hunter is going to win the Heisman Award. I just don't think that.
That's a fair opinion. I just think that people are taking it way too out of proportion. Both guys are excellent players and should either win. Either man is deserving.
Okay, then. So let's go to Texas A&M has the lead now on Auburn, 31-28.
That is surprising.
Mr. Elko is looking like he's going to survive.
I mean, even if he lost, I mean, this season it has to be labeled a success for Mike Elko. I mean, where they were compared to where they are now, it's complete 180. And yeah, if they can pull it out at Jordan Hare, that'd be great for them, and then potentially set up a wooden inning with a low star showdown. But I think that he has done a phenomenal job this year at A&M, and he doesn't get enough credit, especially when it comes to dealing with this tumultuous quarterback situation that Aggies got going on.
Yeah. The Aggies, I still say that they can give Texas a hell of a good game.
Yeah, Texas didn't look necessarily that impressive today against Kentucky. But frankly, they haven't looked impressive this whole year. I mean, can we really say a one signature performance where they beat a legitimate team soundly?
Nope.
I really can't.
Texas is in the same position that Michigan was in last year. They haven't played anybody. They have not played anybody, and that's the way it goes. Yet they're so highly ranked because they're just in the SEC now. Okay, well, whatever. Again, though, that strength of schedule that everybody talks about for the rankings and all this other stuff, Texas doesn't thrill me with their schedule.
Yeah, no, they definitely get a lot of love because of the logo on their helmet. There's no doubt about it. But I mean, that's just college football in general. So, you know.
And Vandy is only down 7 points to LSU as well.
Yeah, I mean, pretty good season for Vandy. Bowl eligible. If they can catch a win against LSU, it'd be even more funny for Brian Kelly. And I hate to break it to LSU fans, they ain't firing Kelly anytime soon. His buyout is way too large, and they know that they can spend more on NIL than they would on.
For two more,
cheaper for them to get a better player than to get rid of him.
For 2 more years, Brian Kelly has his job safe in Baton Rouge, I think.
Yeah, and I believe they're still paying off Coach O too, so they don't want to pay off 2 coaches and have to pay another one.
Yeah, but again, what did you make of the big quarterback flip this week here with Underwood? And
I mean, I'm not surprised. Money rules all. Michigan was able to offer him a bigger deal I think that it's going to be a nice addition for Sharon Moore. He finally gets the quarterback, and I think Michigan isn't too far away from being a competitive force again. It sucks for LSU because they were looking forward to getting him, but I don't think it's too much of a big deal. I mean, LSU in recent years have greatly benefited from the transfer portal or just transfers in general when it comes to the quarterback position. I mean, they've had 2 transfer quarterbacks with Heisman's and Joe Burrow and Jay Daniels, so I don't believe it's that big of a loss. I think that the issues involving LSU go far beyond the quarterback position. And for them, quarterback hasn't been an issue since Brian Kelly's been there, so I don't think it's that big of a deal.
And Garrett Nussmeier is another guy who's going to come. He's going to come back.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, for the NIL money he's making, he might as well try and improve his draft stock because it's not like he's going to decrease his draft when he comes back for one more season. So
yeah, no, exactly, exactly right. I mean, and the LSU Tigers, though, need to understand how to win in the SEC is with real big men on the defensive line. They don't have anybody there. Brian Kelly, you better learn to find some hogs somewhere.
Well, Brian Kelly doesn't have an SEC mindset, so it's no wonder why he's struggling right now in Baton Rouge.
Yep, exactly. All right, so let's take a quick break here, and then we'll be back, and we'll carry on with the program here. All right, everybody, this is now the second part of the last word here tonight. And Brock, any other games that you wanted to talk about that happened today?
Nope. I think we covered everything that I was interested in.
Yeah. Of course, Syracuse did beat UConn today. Have you seen that left tackle for UConn, though?
I have not. I gotta go watch him.
Oh, Mr. Ludge is a big boy. He's 6'8", but he's only weighing 305. But he is certainly somebody to watch. He's an interesting left tackle. He doesn't get out of position with his feet, and when you're 6'8", as we all know, that happens quite a bit.
Yes.
This young man is not getting out of position, and Mike Norvell won his second game this week.
Yeah, I believe he beat Charleston Southern, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah, it's tough for Norvell, but unfortunately, this is a bed that he made, and now he has to lay in it. His inability to recruit high school players is finally showing itself. And of course, when you bring in all those guys in the portal, you don't know how they're all going to work out, and there is a reason why they're in the portal. Whether that reason is good or bad, it's neither here nor there. When you sell the players with all transfer guys that don't have that high school recruiting base, when those transfer guys fails like they do, you have nobody else to rely on your roster. So I think this is a big wake-up call for him. I think you're going to see a much diverse recruiting strategy entering 2025 for the Florida State Seminoles. I think you're really going to see Norvell pour a lot of time, resources, and money into reestablishing Seminole relationships with Florida high schools.
And let's congratulate Matt Ruel for making a bowl.
Yes, first time since I believe 2016, Nebraska is going bowling. Matt Rule in year 2 accomplishes what he should have accomplished in year 1, but unfortunately he got knocked up by the Nebraska curse. However, he is a guy that is rewriting his story and rewriting the story of the Cornhuskers with Dylan Raiola at quarterback and a very underrated defensive line, especially interior defensive line. Nebraska finally breaks through, makes a bowl game. They were ranked again this season. I think brighter things are coming ahead for the Cornhuskers.
And Oregon State beat Washington State 41-38.
Yeah, big loss for Washington State. Zero reason why Oregon State should have won this one. Oregon State has been a team that has been losing to multiple Mountain West teams the entire season. This was a Washington State team people were talking about potentially being a sleeper for the college football playoffs, and quite frankly should be. Their only loss on the season, if they had one, should have been against Boise State by beating Washington in the Apple Cup. They took down the biggest challenge of the season quite early in the season, and they should have guided to honestly an undefeated record. I said it for a long time. I'm going to say it again, even though Washington State can't, and I don't think they can afford to do it. But they got to fire Jake Dickert. Jake Dicker's not a good head coach. Ben Arbuckle is a pretty good offensive mind. John Mateer is a really good dual threat quarterback. They got some really good offensive weapons, and they got some really underrated defenders up in Pullman. But his inability to put a consistent winning product in the field throughout, I believe, his 4 years there is a testament to the fact that he cannot win. I believe his best season came in his first season when he was an interim coach. The year after, the 2 years following when he had Cam Ward, they had 6 wins and then 5 wins, I believe. That just can't happen. Mike Leach, for a long time, was winning 8 to 9 games a season under Pullman. At least he would hit the 7 mark. And that was in Pac-12 play. When you can't beat Mountain West teams as Washington State, you have massive issues. Washington State may not be the biggest university, but they do have a strong reputation across the Pacific Northwest and in FCS stronghold states such as Montana, the Dakotas, and such. And they should be accessing a lot of talent, and they don't. So Jake Dickert, in my opinion, needs to go.
Was that going to be your statement for today, or is that
No.
going to be the guy? Oh, that's going to be the guy you want to fire this week. Is it okay?
I mean, there's plenty of guys I want to fire, so you know.
So let's look ahead to next week because we got a whole lot of football next week. Friday, Mississippi State plays Ole Miss. Ole Miss is just basically playing for winning the state at this point and enjoying their bowl game on the 1st of January, don't you think?
Yeah. I really don't see a way Ole Miss can get into the playoffs at this point unless other things go catastrophically wrong.
Catastrophically wrong, right?
Other teams around the nation.
Georgia Tech goes to Athens. Can they pull up?
I think they can. I think they have the physicality to beat the Bulldogs. I think the Bulldogs were exposed multiple times. Don't look at the scoreboard today. UMass was playing them hard today. Hard. So I think
that was supposed to be the softball game of their schedule, and UMass was putting it to them at times.
They were. Georgia Tech is a much improved team under Jeff. I believe his name is Jeff Collins, the head coach. Georgia Tech already has 2 top 10 victories. Of course, the season opener against Florida State, which I know some people don't want to count as a top 10 because we saw Florida State worked out. But hey, no one knew that at the time. They were looking at the big dogs. Everyone thought they were going to win. Georgia Tech came in with a big old attitude and said no. And then they displayed that same thing against Miami. So if any team is going to knock on Georgia, it's going to be Georgia Tech. So put the Bulldogs on upset alert. And honestly, as wild as all the scenarios that would need to happen for Ole Miss to make the playoffs would need to happen, when you sit back and start going through them, it's actually not that crazy. They would also need South Carolina to lose, but they play Clemson in the season finale, so that game is essentially losing or out for one of those teams, and it could be losing or out for both those teams in general. But more importantly, if Clemson beats South Carolina, that automatically knocks out the Gamecocks. But Clemson, which I believe is a team sitting at 2 losses, would not be playing the ACC championship game. So
no, exactly. Because their conference, they've got the 2 conference losses.
Exactly. And I very much doubt the committee's going to put 3 ACC teams in. I think they'll put 2. I think they put the 2 teams that go to the conference championship. Those are the 2 teams that are in. And SMU is already in the conference championship. So I think they'll be in. And then Miami will be the other team. So that could, if Clemson wins, that could knock out both South Carolina and Clemson. I think Ole Miss at 3 losses could potentially get in over Clemson at 2. Especially since Ole Miss has a win over Georgia and Georgia has a win over Clemson.
And then, of course, Colorado plays Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
Another guy that you and I want fired, Mr. Gundy. Goodbye.
Yeah. I mean, Gundy's not leaving. I mean,
no. That school just has their own set of ways of doing things, and we know this. And Mike Gundy's going to be there for life if he wants to be.
Yeah, well, I mean, no, he literally can be. Like he literally has a 4-life contract. And yeah, that's probably the reason why. Yeah, Colorado should win that game easily. Colorado's another team. Like they look like they're out, and I believe in my heart they're out. But when you start looking at how the Big 12 is shaping out, like it's wild. Now Colorado, of course, has 3 losses on the season, but like I say, Kansas State plays Iowa State. Arizona State has to go to arch rival Arizona, and everyone's been mad about the territorial cup for the past 2 years for a variety of reasons. BYU just lost again today to so you just never know how it's going to shape up in the Big 12. So with all that being said, should teams start losing as they should be in the Big 12, that could also help Ole Miss's case to sneak in with 3 losses. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Tennessee finishes the season against Vanderbilt. I believe they play at Vandy, if I'm not mistaken. And as we all know, that hasn't been exactly an easy place to win at. So should Tennessee lose in that scenario, if I remember the schedule correctly, that could also open a door as well, especially since I think Alabama's out for sure after their loss today against OU. You can't lose to OU and get to the playoffs. Not this Oklahoma team. No way.
No,
so I think Ole Miss has a better shot at making the playoffs over Alabama at this point.
Yeah.
I also think because of everything that happened today, Indiana's in. Should they beat Purdue?
Indiana makes it, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
You know,
I think that there are several teams that are locked right now for the playoffs.
But Indiana has to go down to play in the South now, though, because of this loss.
But
right?
I mean, you would think, right? But I mean, honestly, who knows the way everything's gonna shape out? But in my opinion, Oregon, Indiana,
Ohio State.
No, I don't think Ohio State's locked. Ohio State loses against Michigan, and then they don't win the conference championship game. If they get in, I don't think they're going to get in. I think if they lose to Michigan, they're out. I think if
But
Indiana,
I mean, this is a vastly different team from that school up north than what they faced the last couple of years. I mean, this is
it is a vastly different team. But are you willing to put that much trust in Ryan Day?
well after the way that he handled Penn State, yeah,
What do you mean
and he,
handle Penn State? But that's not even an impressive feat. Like
oh,
Penn,
now
Penn,
come on
no,
now.
no, no,
Don't,
no.
no,
I'm
no,
not
no,
coming on now.
don't go on about Penn State on me anymore.
Like what?
I've said everything I've had to say about the Penn State Nittany Lions this year.
I'm just saying, like, if there was any time Ohio State was gonna have a letdown, it would be in the big game, or the whatever it's called. I'm just saying. And
The
should
game.
that happen?
It's referred to as the game.
Okay, whatever. But should that happen, Ohio State's not getting in unless they beat Oregon in the conference championship. So,
Yeah.
Which at that point, I don't even think they would get it. Indiana would probably leap them. If and it's a scenario, of course, Indiana beats Purdue, which we all expect. So I don't know, but yeah. So I would say Ohio State's like 90% in, of course, but I still think that there's a possibility they don't make it. But Oregon, Indiana, excuse me. Of course, if they lose to Purdue, that changes things. But who else at this point? Is there any other guarantees you would say? SMU,
No.
I think it's guaranteed.
SMU should be the ACC conference winner. They should win it. Unless Cam Ward pulls the rabbit out of his hat trick again. But SMU, like I said, they play great complementary football, and Miami's defense just doesn't have it. They just don't have it.
Yeah.
You know?
So, yeah. So, I mean, I think whoever goes to the SEC championship game is going to obviously get into the playoff. Both teams will. Oregon will be in. Indiana will be in. Ohio State's very likely to be in. Penn State is very likely to be in. So, well, we'll just have to see what happens, right?
Yep. Now, see, I've gone almost 43 minutes of this program, and I've yet to mention the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. Now, how's that for a record, kids?
Yeah, very good.
See, I didn't talk about Notre Dame and their crushing of the Army tonight.
Yeah, no, Notre Dame look good like usual. I mean,
49-14, and their defense is such a solid group. Even with Leonard Moore, who caused a fumble tonight against Army, taking the place of Benjamin Morrison and the other two standout linemen out of their lineup, and Howard Cross III didn't play tonight either. Notre Dame's defense, like I said in my season preview, that is the side that wins these games for the Fighting Irish. They just dominate people.
Yeah, I mean, the defense has never been the worry point for the Irish or the Marcus Freeman. It's all about how's the offense going to perform. But I believe Notre Dame ends the season against USC. I mean, even if they lose to the Trojans, which I doubt, I don't really see a scenario in which Notre Dame misses the playoffs. I think they're hosting a home playoff game, which I expect them to win. The question for them becomes, how do they play when it comes to the neutral site games? That's something that we'll just have to wait and see, because it depends, of course, who their opponent is. But when you look back at Notre Dame's record over the past 20 years in neutral site bowl games, that's not great. So for Marcus Freeman, it's about, again, rewriting not only his story as a coach, but rewriting the story of Notre Dame in the 21st century. If they can do that, it's definitely going to lead to greater passion down the road in terms of recruiting and everything. But if they can't, those lingering doubts about the Fighting Irish will continue to persist to a detriment.
The other side of the football that had a lot of injuries this year has been the offensive line, but this offensive line for the Fighting Irish are just sound right now. They are so sound, and I mean, the holes that they've opened up for Jeremiah Love and Riley Leonard this year have just been phenomenal.
Yeah, they offensive line did a great job. So just got to wait and see. But yeah, I would say Notre Dame is one of those other locks for the playoffs at this point.
Yep. And I'm going to enjoy seeing some SEC school have to come up to South Bend, Indiana in the middle of December with the snow on the ground, and you're going to have to play football. You're not going to get a patty cake Atlanta game or one of these other soft sites. No, no, no. You got to come up and play a man's game. That'll be fun.
What are you going to do when the SEC comes up there in winter and wins?
I'll give them all the credit in the world. I'll give them all the credit in the world if they can come up and play winter football. I'll give them all the credit. You know that. But this is what these playoffs mean to me, is that these schools now, who always play in the nice little weather down south, have got to come up north to play. And that is a different type of football than they're used to. So I'm looking forward to it. And all the students at Notre Dame are taking their exams one day early so that they can all be available to come to the game as well. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah. So Washington goes to Oregon next Saturday. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
I think Oregon wins this one pretty handily. I think if Washington starts Desmond Williams, I think they have a shot. I think if anyone was to pull the upset, it would be Jed Fish. That's just what he does, honestly. But I don't really see Oregon faltering at this point in the season. I think they understand the potential that exists within them, and I don't see them slipping up so close to capturing glory.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see what other games we got next week here. We got we got the Kansas State, Iowa State. Which version of the Wildcats show up?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the big question. I think Kansas State wins that one, though. I think they knock out Iowa State.
Let's go to the Gamecocks versus Clemson.
I got South Carolina in that one. I think South Carolina has a very underrated defense. It's going to give Clemson fits all day. I think South Carolina can move the ball efficiently enough against Clemson. And once again, South Carolina just knows how to get it done big time. They did have that blowout loss to Ole Miss, but that was their only bad loss of the season so far. They did have a 2-point loss to Alabama and Tuscaloosa, and a loss against LSU that should have been a win if not for the interference of the referees. So I think South Carolina's grit, toughness, and ability to get over being screwed over is just the mental toughness of them are going to lift them over the Clemson Tigers and eliminate Clemson from the college football playoff contention.
So Auburn tied Texas A&M, and they're in overtime.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, South Carolina's hoping A&M loses, because if A&M loses, that's just another team that they don't have to worry about.
Well, exactly, right? Kansas State just pounded Cincinnati 41-15. And then that fight on bunch is playing the other school from Los Angeles, UCLA.
Yeah.
They're tied at 3 right now. That's the game I've got on the TV. Because I want to be able to laugh at George Lopez, and that's always fun for me. Absolutely. Okay. So let's go to the statement. Who made the biggest statement today, Brock?
You go first, and I think about mine.
Okay, well, I'm going to go back to the rankings show this week, which put Boise State into the 4th spot. Thank you for recognizing the Mountain West. for the way that they have played, especially the Boise State Broncos, who, of course, lost to the Oregon Ducks in week 1 by just a field goal. I personally agree that Boise State should be the 4th team.
That's wild.
I still don't like the conference champions getting this high of a spot guaranteed to them. No, you have to earn this. You need to earn this. You just because you're the SEC, the Big 10, the Big 12, and the ACC doesn't mean you should automatically get one of these 4 spots. But again, Boise State had a tough time in Laramie today, but they still pulled it out. And they play Oregon State next week to finish off their season before their conference championship. But, I kind of like the fact that Boise State is the 4th team.
Yeah, Boise State should not be the 4th team. But that's a bit bizarre, you got to admit.
But do you agree with me that the 4 big conferences should not get an automatic spot in the quarterfinals if their records don't hold up?
I think, yeah, I agree with that. I think it needs to be revised, but I think that to own one of the top 4 spots, you need to be a conference champion.
Mountain West is still a conference.
Not really, yeah.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, everybody had assumed all year long that it was going to be a Big 12, an ACC, an SEC, and a Big 12 team. Well, guess what? It's now not.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't really make an argument though, because the projected champions of each conference would still get it over Boise State. So Boise State would need to have an argument to say that, hey, we deserve this thing over you. And you're never going to have a record discrepancy that crazy for a conference champion because there's no divisions anymore. So I mean,
the Big 12 champions don't make it in this case.
Well, I mean, we got to see what the Big 12 champion is going to be, but I mean, we can't act like Arizona State has been doing an incredible job on the football field if they win the Big 12 or whoever wins it. I'm just saying. But, I don't know. It depends.
So, what's your statement?
Don't have them. Just shout out Boston College. You guys are bowl eligible again. Good for you guys. Oh, here's my statement. UMass canceling the senior day is horseshit. I mean, are you shitting me? The losers in the athletic department need to essentially go F themselves. I'm gonna say exactly how I feel. For saying that we have too many gentlemen who have dedicated themselves to this university to properly recognize them on their senior day. So we're just going to tell them to go fuck themselves with a photographer. It counting the senior day, along with what they did to Don Brown in the end, has been acts of cowardice on behalf of the head leaders of the athletic department, and they should fear for their careers at the university, because these are the type of decisions that should get people fired, because they display a concerning lack of incompetence for people in positions where incompetence cannot exist. So UMass needs to do right by their seniors, reinstitute senior day. I can't even believe we have to talk about this right now, because it's been a tradition throughout time to give homage and respect to those who gave everything to your program. That's my statement.
There you are. And that's a very solid statement.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's just see here. What was the score of the football classic in Florida today?
Which one?
FAMU and Bethune-Cookman.
Oh. Yeah, it's hard to fight HBCU scores.
Because that is, of course, where our Jeff Barnes was today.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And of course, next week would be his Bayou Classic since he was a Grambling student and they play Southern next week in the Big Easy.
Yes.
Let's just see here. I don't know where that score is. Let me just pop it in here. Hey, fam, you won 41-38.
Excellent.
Wow. Bethune-Cookman put up a heck of a game then because they're only 2-10 this year, and Florida A&M is 6-5 now. So Mr. Barnes must have had a very good time at that game.
I imagine he did.
Yeah. Well, what do you think?
Good show. Call it a day.
I think we're all finished here for the last word on college sports.
I concur. I wish
All right.
everybody a wonderful evening. Like and subscribe. Till next time, Mr. Greg Rector.
There you are. Those are very wise words for all of our YouTube subscribers. Like and subscribe. That's always a very key thing for us smaller providers out there. We need you guys to like and subscribe so that more people can see what we do here. So, for Brock Vieira, I'm Greg Rector, and this has been The Last Word.